All right, let's talk about a true automotive unicorn, an absolute legend. The 2005 to 2006 Mercedes E55 AMG Wagon. This is one of those cars that inspires a serious cult-like following. But owning one, well, that can be a very, very expensive hobby. So today, we're going to break down every single known problem to figure out if this dream car is a buy or a buy.
I mean, this is the whole appeal, right? For years, car lovers dreamed of having that insane AMG performance, but in a package that could actually, haul the kids, the dog, the groceries. And Mercedes finally gave it to us with this beast, a car that really tries to be everything to everyone. But before we get into all the nuts and bolts and the scary repair bells, you have to understand why this car is so mythical in the first place. It is the absolute definition of a sleeper, a car built to be deceptively, almost unbelievably fast. What Mercedes did here was, well, it was genius in its simplicity. They took their totally normal, sensible E-Class wagon, the kind of car you'd see at a soccer game, and they shoehorned an absolute monster of a V8 under the hood. The result? An instant icon. So, what are we talking about here? The heart of this thing is the legendary M113K Supercharged V8, and it's pumping out a frankly staggering 469 horsepower. You have to remember, back in 2005, that was legitimate supercar power, all hiding inside a family station wagon. And the torque? Oh, the torque. A massive 516 pound-feet. That's what gives this E55 that feeling of endless, effortless power. It's like a freight train. It just pulls and pulls from any speed. Feels like it could rip a stump out of the ground. And if all that wasn't enough, just try finding one. They are genuinely rare. Mercedes only brought somewhere between 1,400 and 1,600 of these into the US over just 2 years. That scarcity is a huge part of its cult status, and it's why the good ones are actually going up in value. Okay, so let's talk about that engine. It's the absolute best part of the E55. It's the main reason you'd want to buy one. But listen, the word bulletproof doesn't mean free to maintain. Not even close. Now, this engine has a stellar reputation, and for good reason. The M113K really is known for being incredibly durable. Plus, Mercedes put it in a ton of different AMG models, so parts are easy to find, and a lot of independent shops know how to work on them. But, and this is a big but, here's the reality check. That supercharger needs its oil changed every 60,000 miles. It's a job people skip all the time, and it leads to a dead supercharger. Then, on higher mileage cars, you're looking at a snout bearing or balance shaft gear repair, and those are multi-$1,000 jobs. The takeaway? Even a strong heart needs expensive care. But see, the engine is only one part of the story. Now we get to the components that can truly, and I mean truly, drain your bank account. These are the make or break issues for any potential owner. The 5G-tronic transmission is generally a tough unit, but it has one famous weak spot. The conductor plate. Think of it like the transmission's brain. When it fails, you get awful, harsh shifts, and the car goes into limp mode. It's not the end of the world, but it's a guaranteed $2,000 expense at some point. Now, for a really serious one, the Sensotronic Brake Control, or SBC system on the 2005 models was a brake-by-wire setup, and it was subject to a massive recall because it could catastrophically fail, leaving you with almost no braking power. If you're even looking at a 2005 model, you absolutely must verify this recall was done. It is non-negotiable. And this brings us to the single biggest headache of E55 AMG ownership. Every single one came with the Airmatic air suspension system. There's no getting around it, and its failure is an absolute certainty. It's not a question of if it will fail, but when. So what's the damage when the inevitable happens? Well, a complete system failure can cost you up to $10,000. No, that is not a typo. To completely refresh the struts, the compressor, the lines, you're easily looking at a 5-figure bill. And here's why it costs so much. The parts themselves are just wildly expensive. Each air strut can run you a couple grand. The compressor isn't much cheaper. And because it's the wagon, you've got a unique rear self-leveling system that adds even more complexity and cost to the equation. All right, so even if you survive the Airmatic bill, you're not done. There's the everyday reality of running a nearly 20-year-old high-performance German wagon. And all those little costs, they add up fast. The wagon has its own special quirks, like the tailgate struts failing. Those massive Brembo brakes will set you back thousands for a full refresh.
The electronics from the early 2000s are all starting to give up. Heated seats, steering columns, you name it. The infotainment is basically a fossil. And that supercharged V8, it is incredibly thirsty, getting maybe 15 to 17 miles per gallon on premium fuel, of course. So, what do you need to budget every year after you've dealt with all the big stuff? You have to be prepared to spend somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000. And that's just on maintenance. That's not even counting consumables like gas and tires. This is not a cheap car to run the right way.
Okay, wow. We have been through the incredible highs and the truly terrifying, expensive lows. So, after all of that, where do we land? Is this incredible machine a buy or a buy?
It really just boils down to this. The reality is, you're staring down a potential $10,000 suspension bill, serious brake system risks, and a huge annual budget. But the reward is that incredible engine, practicality you can't find anywhere else, and owning a rare, appreciating classic that just has no equal on the road today.
Look, if you're gonna do it, you have to be smart about it. Find a car that has paper proof the Airmatic system has already been replaced. Verify that SBC recall. Look for that supercharger service history. And maybe most important of all, find a great independent AMG mechanic and have that annual budget ready to go from day one. So here it is, our final call. Despite all the risks, despite all the terrifying costs, the E55 AMG Wagon is a buy. Yes, it is a financially punishing car, but the driving experience is so unique, so special, and so completely irreplaceable that for the right owner, the one who's prepared, it is absolutely worth it.
And that just leaves us with one final thing to think about. When you mix that thundering V8, the fact that nobody knows what it is, and the sheer practicality of it all, can you think of any other car with a tailgate that delivers this much pure satisfaction? I'm thinking it's a very, very short list.